A very good evening to all of you. My name is Devesh Lathi, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you on this call. Congratulations to everyone. You are one of about 400 students who have reached so far. You're one of those 400 students who are now going to go through the next steps, who are now going to submit your college applications, and who are now going to be interviewed for the next Genius Scholarship. So congratulations on reaching this far and claps. Uh, it's In this call, I'm going to share with you about the next steps, about the process, about what all is going to happen in the next few weeks. And I'll also answer a few FAQs, the most popular questions that are there, and most students are asking these questions. So I'll try and answer as many as possible. Start asking your questions only when I ask you to post the questions. Otherwise, it will go much above in the queue. First, listen to all my FAQs very carefully because most of these FAQs are designed so that it takes care of most of your queries. So after that, only a few unique FAQs or questions or queries will be left. So welcome everyone. I hope all of you have started working on your college application. If not, it's high time. You should have started. You should start right away. Your college application is not just Common App. Your college application has multiple components. Common App is just one of those application pieces, right? So make sure that you submit your Common App in the next 1 week itself. Do not wait for any reason. Do not let anything stop you from submitting your Common App, because only when you are done with your Common App, you can start working on a lot of other pieces. Yeah. Here I have a list of all the things that you need to submit, all the components of the application that you need to submit to the college by January 1. Remember the deadline, the Next Genius deadline, the deadline for Next Genius applicants is January 1. The colleges might have a different deadline. They might have a different regular decision deadline, but all Next Genius applicants must submit everything by January 1. If your application remains incomplete by Jan 1, you will miss out on this opportunity and you will not be allowed to participate in the interviews. I don't want that to happen. I want all of you to get this chance and end up winning this scholarship. So that can only happen if you submit everything by Jan 1, right? So make sure it's your responsibility. We can only guide you. We can only take you to water, but it's your responsibility to drink that water, right? So no, we'll support you, we'll guide you, but make sure you're on the top of everything. What all are the different components of your application? The first and foremost is, of course, Common App. We know that. Within Common App, there is a Common App essay to be written, and I see a lot of students struggling in writing that essay. Many of you are working with your school counselor, private counselors. Please keep them posted that Next Genius requires you to submit everything by January 1, irrespective of the college deadline, which means you'll have to work with your school counselors and principals to ensure that they also submit your transcripts and mark sheets and recommendations by Jan 1. Yeah. In terms of the Common App essay, we have a few videos and resources on our website that you can check out on our YouTube channel. So go to Next Genius YouTube channel and check out videos about inspiration on how to write your Common App essay. Yeah. Then there is a college specific supplement. A lot of students think that, okay, now that they've written Common App essay, it's done. No, that's not how it works. You have to add your college to your list, and you have to fill the college specific section and submit that as well. You have to submit the application to the college, and that's how the Common App is submitted. When you submit your college to the when you submit your application to the college, you will get a message on your screen which says, congratulations, your application has been submitted to Muhlenberg, Syracuse, Lynn University, whichever college you are interviewing with. So make sure you see that message, because that is the only way you would know and we would know that you have submitted the application. My team will connect with you, will ask you to submit these screenshots to us so that we can be sure that you are on track and that you have submitted the application. Yeah. Common App. The second thing is the documents which have to be submitted by your school, by your counselor and your teachers. This includes a letter of recommendation and transcripts. Yeah. On the Common App, you can invite your counselor, and as soon as you invite them, they will get an email from Common App stating that so and so student has invited you to write a recommendation for you. They will get that email, they will get a link using which they can access the recommenders or the counselor's portion of Common App, and using that they can submit all your documents. Yeah. And you can very easily see whether they have received that email, whether they have created that account, whether they have started working on it, whether they have submitted everything on it or not on your Common App itself. Common App provides you that facility that you can see whether the counselor has submitted everything for you or not, right? Same thing goes for the teacher. So your teacher needs to submit your letter of recommendation. The counselor needs to submit a school report, your mark sheets for different years, which they can upload as PDFs, and they need to submit a brief letter of recommendation. So counselor has more work to do for you to support you as compared to your teachers. Then there are test scores. If you have taken SAT or ACT, you need to submit those scores. If you have not taken, you can, it's optional. Most next genius, actually almost all next genius colleges are test optional. Many of you, when you applied to us, we received your profiles and we saw many of you have taken your SATs and ACTs. So we would encourage you to submit it to the college. English proficiency scores or waiver request. Again, you need to either submit your English proficiency score, which can be your Duolingo or IELTS or TOEFL or PT, or you need to request a waiver by writing to your university. If you are an IB student, most likely you are going to get a waiver. Just write an email to your admission officer requesting that your English proficiency requirement be waived. And IB students, it's not going to be a big problem. If you have received like a 700 out of 800 on your SAT in English, in that case also, most of the times the English proficiency requirement can be waived. So those are the two cases. If you have taken TOEFL or IELTS, you can report those scores to the college by going to your website, going to the testing website, ETS or the TOEFL portal or College Board for your SAT scores, and you can send your scores to the college. Many colleges would accept an unofficial score, which is like a screenshot of your score on the College Board website. But most colleges require an official score, which can only be sent by going to the testing agency's website. Make sense? You got that? Yeah. Keep nodding, because I'm seeing some of you keep nodding so that I can know that you're following me. Great. Super. Next is financial forms and paperwork. All colleges have their own financial forms and paperwork. Some colleges ask you to fill the CSS profile. Some colleges would ask you to fill the ISFA, International Students Financial Aid Application. Some colleges would ask you to fill the COF. Some colleges have their own form, a college-specific form. So it depends on which college you're applying to, and you'll have to submit that college-specific form, financial form. Along with the college-specific forms, colleges would also ask you to submit some additional details, like a letter from the bank with your savings account, your parents' savings account, a letter from the bank, or a letter of income proof, or proof of taxes and all of that. This takes up a lot of time, and during 25th December to 1st January, banks will have a lot of holidays. So don't wait until the last moment to get all of this in place. And that's why I'm telling you again and again, fill up your Common App early. Fill up your Common App in the next 5 to 7 days. Fill up your Common App by December 15 so that you can spend, you can work on the other components in the next 15 days. Jan 1 is the deadline to submit everything, not just Common App. Jan 1 is the deadline to submit all of these components. One more form is a Next Genius financial information form. Along with a financial form of the college, you also need to submit a financial information form provided by Next Genius. On that form, we will also ask you to upload a video, just like you recorded a video for profiling form. You'll also need to record a brief 3-minute video answering a question like this. Why would you like to go to this college? If you are, let's say, going to Muhlenberg or Syracuse, why Syracuse? Why did you select that college? Yeah. Answer that question, research about that college, look at on their website, find out your own reasons of why is it that you selected that college? Why is it that you are keen on going to that college? Why is it that you're keen on winning a scholarship to that specific college? This is a very strong indicator of your demonstrated interest. This shows that you have done your research and you understand that that particular college is the right college for you and that you are a good fit there. Yeah. So research well. Don't just give very generic stuff like, I want to go to a big city, to let's say to a top ranked college or something like that. Be more specific. Yeah. Think about it. Don't give general stuff. Be very, very specific while recording this video. Yeah. So coming back to the financial form, Next Genius financial information form, you will ask you about your finances. Sit with your parents while filling the form. We will ask you to upload the screenshot of your Common App. We'll ask you to upload your Common App PDF. We'll ask you to upload your 9th, 10th, and 11th mark sheets, which you can upload by yourself. And we will ask you to record this video. These are the 4 things we ask you to submit via your financial information form. And finally, there is an optional component. If you have a resume or a portfolio, you can submit that to the college. And college portal status, college application status portal. So all colleges have a portal. Once you submit your Common App, they create a portal for you on which you can check your status of whether the college has received your transcripts, whether they have received your SAT scores, whether they have received your Duolingo English test scores, and so on. So that portal's access you'll get only after you submit your Common App. Look out for it. You will get that on your email. Yeah. So if you want, take a screenshot of this slide, save it, because this is something which you will need, and you should be aware of this. Yeah. Done. Screenshot taken and saved. Super. Next. Just 1 second. Okay. Now let's come to the FAQs. What are some of the questions that we are receiving again and again? Let's check that out. And just give me 1 second. How are we doing on time? 5:20. Okay. Okay. All right. So need-based financial aid. There is a question in Common App which asks you, are you applying for need-based financial aid? Say yes for that. Since you are applying for a Next Genius scholarship, the college automatically knows that you will need scholarship and financial aid. Say yes to that question. Adding counselor and FERPA on Common App. What is FERPA mean? FERPA is an acknowledgement from your, this is something which you'll see on your Common App when you add your counselor. So if you're wondering what is this FERPA and all, this is something you'll see when you add your counselor on Common App. In this, select this option of I waive my right to review all recommendation and supporting documents. What this means is that the counselor can write your recommendation and you don't want to see that. You are okay in not seeing that because you know counselor has written wonderful things about you. Yeah. In certain countries, this, you know, in Europe, this is something which is an important of is an important matter because the privacy and all of that and what people have written about you for your application matters a lot. If your school has very specifically said you to select this option, I do not waive my right. Unless your school has asked you to not waive your right, all of you must select this option. I waive my right to review all recommendation and supporting documents. Yes. Again, when you add your counselor on Common App, so let's say if someone added Devesh Lati as their school counselor, do not do that. I'm not your school counselor. But if someone had added me as their school counselor, they can see that I've already submitted their school report. I've already submitted their counselor recommendation, and I've started the other documents. Of course, the main two things are school report, counselor recommendation, and mid-year report. Most of the schools and most of the colleges would require the counselor to submit a mid-year report. You can see all of this on your Common App itself. Yeah, all these screenshots are taken from Common App. There are two interviews that's going to happen. The first interview is going to be an interaction with you and either the admission officer or a next genius scholar. A next genius scholar is already there in your WhatsApp group. So they will either call you or they will connect with you to schedule an interview. If this has not happened, don't worry. This is not a very, this is not the final interview. The final interview is interview number 2, which is going to happen in January 19th and 20th. That is called the main Next Genius interview. We also call them the group interviews. So these Next Genius group interviews will happen January 19th and 20th. And we will send you more information about it and we will keep you updated about these interviews. And we will do another call like this to share about what the Next Genius group interviews is going to be like. Yeah. So don't worry about all of this because we will help you prepare for these interviews. Okay. I just shared about the Next Genius financial information form. Again, this is a form that you will have to submit after you have submitted your Common App. Refundable deposit, timeline and rules. We charged you a refundable deposit of 4,000 rupees to block an interview spot. This deposit would be returned to you within 15 days of the interviews. As soon as the interviews are done, within 15 days, you'll get this refundable deposit back. This refundable deposit, as you know, is a way for you to block an interview spot. There are limited interview spots, which means every seat is valuable. If you do not submit your college application or if you do not participate in the interviews, you will not get this money back. Otherwise, in every scenario, you will get this money back. Yeah. Which means whether you have won the scholarship, whether you have not won the scholarship, whether you have been accepted or denied, whatever be the case, you will get the money back as long as you participate in the scholarship interviews and as long as you submit your full college application. Those are your two commitments. Make sure you fulfill those two commitments. A very important point is do not delay and procrastinate submitting your Common App for any reason, like you're submitting your SAT scores or waiting for your ED results or waiting for your teacher or counselor to submit their recommendation. You do not need to wait for them. I showed you a screenshot earlier about you can see the status of your counselors recommended, whether they've started working on it or not. You do not need to wait for them to submit their components, their pieces of application, their material, you do not need to wait for them to submit Common App. You should go ahead and submit your Common App right away. Okay? Don't wait for anything or anyone before submitting your Common App, to submit your Common App. Yeah. Some of you asked us if we have CSS profile waivers. No, we do not have CSS profile waivers, unfortunately. If you have taken IELTS, TOEFL, or PTE, then you don't need to take DET. If you have not taken any of these exams, then we would highly encourage you to sign up for DET and take that up right away. We have provided some of you with the waivers, and more waivers are available. Please feel free to reach out to us. We also have special guest on this call, Ms. Gayatri from Duolingo English Test. She's going to talk with you about Duolingo and share about what it is and how you can take that test and how the whole process of DET works. We'll start that in a couple of minutes. Here is a very brief snapshot about the group interviews which will happen in January. I'm just going to go through it very quickly. You can take a screenshot of this. Then we'll start off a 15-minute conversation or a session by Ms. Gayatri as she shares about DET. And then finally, we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A. Group interviews in January, this so on 19th, 20th, 19th and 20th is when you will have to block your evenings for Next Genius group interviews. 19th Jan is when you'll have an icebreaker session. What an icebreaker means is that you will have a session where you will meet all the other students and they'll introduce themselves. They'll play a game like a 2 truths, 1 lie, where you tell 2 truths and 1 lie, and others have to figure out what is the truth, what is the lie. On 28th, first thing that will happen is a session for your parents, where all your parents will come on a Zoom link and they will learn more about the college. Following that, there'll be 2 hours of group interview where all of you will join the breakout room, the college-specific room. There'll be 20 other students just like yourself in the interview room, and you will play games or you will do discussions, group discussions. You will be further broken down into smaller groups of 7s and 8s, and you will have those discussions in smaller groups as well. And finally, January 26th is when we'll have the award ceremony. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun thing. Don't worry about this. Don't get stressed about these interviews. This is just some fun event, and I'm sure you're all going to enjoy it. Finally, check out this link on our website, nextgenius.com/nextgeniusscholars, to learn more about the scholar stories and to learn more about how a lot of students have benefited from the Next Genius scholarships in the past. I once again congratulate all of you to coming this far in this process. Our team is there to support you. Let me just name all of the team members right now who have been so helpful and who are going to support you in the coming days. Kajol Shah, who is the program manager, Radha Venkatraman, Rudra Vyas, Ravisha Maheshwari, and Sneha Nahar. Let's first hear a big round of applause for all of these people who have supported all of you over the last few months and weeks, and who will continue to support you over the next few months as you navigate through this scholarship journey. With that, let me pass it on to Ms. Gayatri. Hello, Gayatri. It's a pleasure to have you here. We are happy to learn more about DET, and these students would.
Hi, Devesh. Thank you. Just give me a second to share my screen and we'll be good to go.
1 second. Yeah. Yes. So students, I'll stay back, and after 15 minutes, I'll answer all your queries. So don't worry about it. All your questions about Next Genius will be answered. Let's first listen about DET and learn about how this will help you in your application journey.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks, Devesh. Let me tell you a little bit about the Duolingo English test. So this is what we're going to go through in this very short presentation now. I'll introduce the test to you and tell you a little bit about how it works. We'll also take a look at the institutions that accept this test. We'll take a look at some of the common challenges that test takers usually face. This is usually in the form of rules that they unknowingly break. I'll also talk to you about the test requirements, what you need to take this test, and how you can get ready to take this test. Before we get into it, I thought we could do a quick quiz, and just so I know how much people already know about this test, I have a few questions that I'm going to share on the screen, and I'd like you to type your answers into chat. So here's your first question. How many hours does it take to complete the Duolingo English test? All right. I can see a range of hours between half an hour to about 2 hours. Half an hour is too less. It is a short test. It's about an hour long. Although all of the sections, each question is a timed question. That is, they have time limits, but it really depends on how long each test taker spends on each section. Some of you may move on faster from one to the next. Some of you may want to use up the entire time limit that's available. So it can get over anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and 15, depending on how quickly one gets through it. All right, your next question. What do you think the maximum score is that you can get on this test? That's right, I see someone's already put in 160. Everyone's saying 160. All right, well done. So everyone knows this. It is actually possible to score this range. It's not just one of the highest ranges. It is actually, many test takers actually do achieve this score. How long do you think it takes to get test results? Absolutely, 2 days. 48 hours is as long as it takes to get the result. So the scoring for this test is actually all done within an hour because it's AI scored. But it also has human proctors, and they take about 2 days to manually verify that the test taker has actually satisfied all the requirements of the test. For example, that there was no cheating. And how many schools do you think currently accept this test? It is in the thousands, and most of you are in the right range. There are currently 4,700 plus schools, and this number continues to grow. All right, let's get into it. Thank you for being so generous with your answers. I love how participative this group is. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper and see what makes this test so popular. Some of these things that set the test apart are the fact that it's a very accessible test. You can take it anywhere, anytime. It's online, so you can take it at the comfort of your own home. There's also a quick turnaround time on results. The cost is really low compared to other tests, making it more affordable. And there's also a very high level of accuracy guaranteed because it is AI scored. And there's a lot of research that continually goes into making this system as accurate as possible. Now, I think most people would agree that traditional testing can be painful, can be expensive. In the case of most other tests, even today, students still need to book a date months in advance, travel to a test center, sometimes in a different city or state, and then actually take the test over possibly 2 days and at least 3 to 4 hours. Then you'll have to wait a couple of weeks at least to get results, which is a really long time to spend feeling anxious, wondering how you've done, whether you might have to repeat this process. And so everyone's worried for a much longer time than necessary. This is where the DET shines. Unlike all the other tests in the market, this one is built for students who are pressed for time. The registration is really simple and easy. You don't have to register months, weeks, or even days in advance. You can actually decide to just register and do it at the last minute. You can take the test anytime, anywhere, and complete it all within an hour and get your result in 2 days. So in the time that it takes to do this test, you set up your ID and do the test. It assesses your proficiency in all 4 language skills, including collecting a speaking and a writing sample. And sometimes all of this is over in 45 minutes. So if you're wondering why this test takes only 1 hour and the others take 4 or more hours, it's because this test is what we call computer adaptive. What that basically means is that based on your performance, the computer will decide what question to serve you next. And the difficulty of each successive question changes based on your performance. The test will end, and this is why it varies from test taker to test taker. The test basically ends when the AI system is confident that it's been able to assess your language ability. And that's why the test is shorter, because the AI engine can do this much faster. The benefit of this, one of the benefits, is that you don't perform poorly just because you're fatigued at the end of a 4-hour test. Now, although it is a computer-based test, it still manages to measure all 4 language skills that are core to English language proficiency testing. It's backed by very rigorous research, and these subscores that you see on the screen before you, they have different names, but they still offer valuable insights into proficiency in English. And that's why the DET is popular with many universities. So Ruchit asks, what is a good score on the DET? This varies from college to college. You'll have to check individual schools, but most of the top schools seem to require 120 or higher. Again, it really depends. I think they have different requirements for science and humanities courses, so you'll have to look that up individually. But by and large, it's 120 plus. All right. Here's a quick look at the scoring of the Duolingo English test. The test questions are graded automatically through special procedures that are developed specifically for each question type. And some of the closed questions, those are the ones that are automatically right or wrong answers, those are automatically scored by AI. There are some questions where if your answer isn't entirely correct, they'll compare it to a model and you will still receive partial credit depending on how close you are to the expected answer. In the case of open response questions, these are your writing and speaking questions on this test. Here are all the different criteria that you can see on the screen that you would be assessed on. I'll take you through them briefly. When we talk about content, what you will be assessed on is things like task achievement and relevance. Basically, how well do you answer the question? How fully do you answer the question? Are you on topic right through this speaking or writing that you are doing? Is the style that you use to answer the question appropriate? Are you following an appropriate level of formality? And then, of course, how well you actually develop the answer. How many ideas can you share with an explanation or some kind of support in the form of examples or opinions and things like that. Is 140 a good score? Yes, I think it must be. If it's over 120, you know what I can do is I can share the comparison of scores for this test, how it rates against other tests, so that you know what kind of range you might need to look at. Hang on, where is this chat box? All right, so if you click on this link, it will show you a comparison of the Duolingo English test scores with the other test scores. So you can have a look at which scores are relevant for you. Does accent play a factor in the score evaluation? No, it doesn't, so long as you are intelligible, and that means can you be understood? I'll come to that in a bit because I'm going to talk to you about pronunciation in just a moment. All right, guys, can I ask you to hang on to your questions? Or don't worry, you can put them in chat, but don't worry if I don't get around to them immediately. I will answer all of these questions. Just let me finish telling you a little bit more about the scoring. Okay, we looked at content. Now, when it comes to discourse coherence, what this basically looks at is how clear your writing or your speaking is. And it looks at features like cohesion and paragraphing. So are you using any linking expressions, or are you connecting your ideas in a way that's logical? Does the flow seem logical? Is there an introduction, a body, and a conclusion? Are you using the right format? For example, are you writing the way you would write an essay in continuous prose and not using bullet points? So those are the kind of things that we assess as part of discourse coherence. We then have lexis, which is just vocabulary. How much variety is there in the choice of words that you use? Are there many repetitions? How accurate are the choices? And of course, spelling is important. Then, of course, you have grammar, which also assesses things like range, the range of this kind of structures that you use. Are they all a variety of sentences, or are you using very repetitive sentence forms? What about punctuation? And even if you make mistakes, what kind of mistakes are you making? Are you making mistakes where the understanding is distorted, or are you making mistakes where it's still understandable what the message is? These are the kind of things that are assessed in grammar. Fluency talks about the pace, or that is the speed of your speech, how natural your pausing is, whether you use emphasis, how effectively you use it. Do you do a lot of self-repetition or self-correction? Do you stop and start a lot? Are you using many fillers? These are kind of things that are assessed in fluency. Fluency is basically the flow of your speech. And of course, another feature that's assessed on speaking questions is obviously pronunciation. All varieties of standard English pronunciation are acceptable. You will not be penalized for having an accent. The only criteria is, can you be easily understood? Are the sounds clear? Are you using appropriate intonation? Don't worry, there are, at the end of this presentation, I will be telling you where you can look for resources to help you get ready for this test. So you won't be without support. And the AI engine that assesses all of these competencies, it's quite a comprehensive way in which they assess all these 4 language skills, and really not very different from how other language tests assess language as well. All right. Another advantage that the Duolingo English test has over other tests is the fact that there is no limit to the number of universities that you can share your results with. There's also no cost. It's free to send your results to as many institutions as you like. When you send your results, when you sign up, when you get your report and you want to share it the first time, you get to pick about 40 institutions that you can send your results to for free. You may not want to send it to 40, but if you do want to send it to more than 40, that's also possible. You can come back. All that will be required is that the test team will get in touch with you and just confirm that you actually are applying to so many colleges, because you need to send an application when you're sending your results. All right. Thanks for the heads up, Devesh. I'll go through this quickly. So here's a quick overview of what makes this test a good alternative. The fact that it's got a quick turnaround time, it's much more affordable, it's a shorter test, and you can share your results with an unlimited number of institutions. So all the reasons why it's a better alternative. Now let's talk acceptance. One of the questions that comes up is, it sounds great, but where is this test accepted? As I mentioned at the start, there's over 4,700 institutions globally that accept this test. And this number continues to grow. And so the chance that your university is covered is quite high. Just make sure to check whether it's on the list of universities that accepts this test. I'm putting a quick link in the chat box where you can check acceptance. You just need to type in your university name and it will pop up. There you go. So these are some of the top schools around the world that accept the test. I'll show you a quick overview of the top colleges in the US. An easy way to remember the DET's acceptance rate in the US is simply that we're on par with any other test, language proficiency test. So if you're going to the US, then this is a great alternative, particularly if you're on a tight schedule. These are some of the colleges in the UK, Ireland, and Europe where the DET is accepted. There are, of course, many more colleges than the ones you see on the screen. You just have to confirm that by checking on the website. And here's a quick overview of universities in Asia Pacific that accept the test. Again, many more accepted. You'll just need to run through the list on the acceptance webpage. This is what acceptance in Canada looks like. It's near universal. So long as students are applying with regular study permits, if your target school accepts the DET, then visa is not an issue either. All right, so let's take a quick look at the rules that are commonly broken. This ends up being a challenge for students because most of them aren't aware that these are the rules. So just things that you need to keep in mind. We don't think that students intend to cheat, but they just don't seem to know that there are these very stringent requirements, and they might seem stringent, but the thing to keep in mind is it's a remote test. You don't have human proctors watching you. You don't have supervisors or invigilators around, and that's why all of these extra measures need to be taken to maintain the integrity of the test. So the first commonly broken rule is the fact that people often look away from the screen. This is something they do without realizing. We're used to looking away when we think. So of course you can look down when you type in your keyboard, but the AI is capable of recognizing when students are looking away because they're looking at other material and when they're looking down at their keyboard. So if this is something you're in the habit of doing, if you tend to look away when you think, take a practice test and just practice this one skill of staring at the screen or looking at the camera while you do the test, just so you don't unconsciously break it. Another commonly broken rule is having multiple programs and applications open at the same time. An easy way to make sure there's nothing running in the background, that you don't have any other apps open, is to just shut down your whole system and restart it when you're ready to take the test. Another rule that unwittingly gets broken is being interrupted during the test. If you live in a place where you have other people around you that have access to your room, this is something that might happen. One strategy is to just put a sign outside your door that says, busy taking a test, don't bother me for 1 hour, just so you're not interrupted. Obviously, in this kind of test, these are certain regulations that have to be followed. And finally, another very important rule is that you can't memorize answers. You can, of course, practice. You may have practiced answers to similar types of questions, but when you respond to questions on this test, whether in speaking or writing, your response should directly address the topic, and it should be in your own words. Because remember, this test is AI scored. And so if your answer is a memorized one, the system is going to be able to tell. Here's a quick overview of what you need to actually take the test. Anyone that needs to take this proficiency, prove their English language proficiency, can take the test. There's no age limit or educational requirement. It's only if you're under 13 years old that you might need to have your parents write an email to our test support team giving permission for you to take the test. But if you're over 13, this is not an issue. Now, as of December 2nd of 2021, the Duolingo English test only accepts passports from test takers in India. We no longer accept the Aadhaar card, the PAN card, or the driver's license as a form of ID. You can take the test on a laptop or a desktop computer only. It may have Windows or a Mac OS, that's fine. But the test does not support the Chrome OS or Linux operating systems. And it also won't work on an iPad, tablet, or any other kind of tablet or phone. So make sure you're at a computer, either a laptop or a desktop. And finally, just a little bit about the kind of support that you have on this test. If you go to our test readiness page, you can find the free practice test that you can take an unlimited number of times. And there's a guarantee that you won't come across any questions. They won't be repeated on the test because we have such a large bank of sample questions for you to go through. You can also download the test guide. This practice test can be done on your mobile. It can be done on an iPad. It's only the actual test itself that you need to be at a computer and do. The DET test official guide will tell you a little bit more about the kind of questions there are on the test, how you can prepare for them, some tips and strategies to answer them, as well as a little bit more about the scoring. And we also have a YouTube channel with plenty of video content to learn more about the test and more ideas for how you can practice and generally improve your language skills. So that was a quick 101 on the Duolingo English test. If you have any questions, please put them into chat and I'll try and get round to them. Devesh, are you okay if I go with these questions first and then you can answer the ones for you?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, first of all, Gayatri, for sharing all that wonderful information. I'm sure the students would benefit tremendously through this presentation. Students, now we are open for Q&A. Please start putting your questions in the chat box. And the first 2 to 3 questions, maybe Gayatri, you can take. And following.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions that were sent to me in the DM, so I'm just going to quickly run through them.
Yeah, Gayatri, maybe just 2 to 3 questions, and then I want to talk a little bit more about Next Genius. Yeah, and then you can continue answering them in the chat. Yeah,
sure, I can do that. So one of you has asked, after I book my test, is there any deadline? And within how many days do you have to take the test? You have 21 days from the time of booking a test to actually take the test. The practice test will give you only a possible score. It will obviously not, so that this test tests your real-time proficiency. So in the time between the practice test and the actual test, if you've gotten better, then of course you're going to do better on the actual test. So it will, however, give you a potential score that's pretty close to what you might expect to get. You have some information about the waiver for them, right, Devesh? I'll leave that question to you. One of them would like to know about the payment for this test. If you have any additional requirements, if you have things like ADHD or dyslexia or any other support that you might, any other accommodations that you might need when you take the test, you can look at our website. There's an email ID that you can write to and ask them for support, and they will help you out. There's a little tab called accommodations, and if you can look at that, they will help you out with this. You cannot use earphones, headphones, or any other gadgets, I want to say. You can have one keyboard or a mouse and your camera, and that's it. The passport is required. Like I said, you can't use any other form of ID. This is the only one accepted here. All of the booking and payment methods you can find online on our website. If you sign up for the test, you can make the payment online. Most methods that any other platform might use to make payments. I think the rest of these questions, what I can do is we have an FAQs page, and I'm going to share that with you. I can see a lot of your questions already have answers on there, so don't worry that I'm not addressing it here. You will find answers on this website. The test is valid for 2 years. They will jump in whenever you want. I'm just carrying on because there seem to be this many questions. The test is valid for 2 years, like any other proficiency test. If you don't have a camera that's working, you can have an attached camera. That's fine. But make sure you do a check before you do the test, like test your equipment before you do the test.
Great. Thank you, Gayatri.
Can I just answer one more question?
Yes,
Because I think a lot of these questions are around the tech aspect of it.
Yes.
So when you purchase the test, you get a couple of chances to take the test, because we do account for the fact that you might lose network, there may be glitches, something may go wrong, your screen may hang. So as an allowance for that, you get up to 2 attempts when you sign up for the test. So when you sign up for the test and you pay for it, you take the test once, something happens and you have to stop in the middle, you can take the test another 2 times. You can try to take it another 2 times after that. If you have any other issues, you would have to write to our test support team. They would have to manually verify that there really was an issue and then allow you maybe any other chances. All right, over to you. Thanks, Devesh.
Thanks, Gayatri. So I'm seeing some questions about Next Genius now. After the council submits the transcript, do we need to submit it anywhere else? So you will need to submit your grade 9, 10th, and 11th scores to us on a Next Genius financial aid application form. Other than that, once the teacher has submitted their transcript via Common App, you don't need to submit it anywhere else. And Gayatri, please feel free to answer the questions using the chat feature. There'll be more questions about DET. So yeah. When will we be asked to submit the Next Genius financial form? You will be asked to submit that form after you have submitted your Common App. How to prepare for the interview. So we will do similar sessions about preparing for the interviews in the next few weeks. We will share more resources on how you can prepare for the interviews. Are all the interviews online? Yes, all the interviews are fully online on Zoom. Do we have to submit our extracurricular activities? You have to submit your extracurricular activities using the activities section on Common App. Could you please elaborate on the content of the bank letter financial documents for verification? So there is a format, and maybe we can share that with you, a sample bank letter. But most banks usually have a format in which they write down that that so and so person has so much money in their bank account, and as per the dollar conversion rate, the amount is this much, and the bank teller just stamps it and signs it. Approximately how many students would be awarded the scholarship? See, this number varies every year. This year, we are hoping about 200 students to win some kind of scholarships. Of those 200, roughly 30 students would win a full scholarship, and everyone else would win a partial scholarship. I didn't receive a reply from my allocated university after submitting the application. If you have already submitted the application, please wait. Continue to work on the other components of your application. Your university will definitely get back to you in due course of time. Someone is asking, since all liberal arts colleges are need aware, does asking for financial aid degrade our chances of getting accepted? Don't worry about all of that. Always say yes in the question which says, are you applying for need-based financial aid? If you need need-based financial aid, if you have lots of funds available, and if you don't need a need-based financial aid, and if you just need a merit-based scholarship, then say no. But all Next Genius applicants, I encourage you to say yes in that question. Can I apply through Coalition app instead of Common app? You can, but Common App is what we prefer. My school council, my school doesn't have a counselor. Can the school office submit the documents instead? Yes, your school office, your principal, vice principal, all of them can submit it. Someone is saying that they'd already submitted an application to Syracuse, but they have not said yes in the financial aid question. Don't worry about it. If it has gone, it is done. Don't worry. The university anyway would consider you for any aid since you're a next genius applicant. Okay, now see, we have about 4 minutes to go. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but don't worry if your question was not answered. We are there. We'll continue to support you via WhatsApp, calls, emails. So we are there to help you over the next few months. This call, again, we could not have answered all your questions. If your queries are answered, also feel free to drop out of the call. And I'm sure many of you are going to be the future scholars. Just keep working at it, keep following all the suggestions or all the steps, all the things that we ask you to do. We are here to support you in your application journey. All the best. Feel free to drop off, and I will stay here for the next 5 to 10 minutes answering questions.